So hello friends, I am Neeraj Avinash and we have enough understanding about Docker, and in the past few sessions, so we have understood Docker, about Docker, Docker file, and Docker Compose as well. So let us continue our session and let us try to understand Docker Compose in much detail, and we will try to develop a application, and we will Dockerize our application, a Django application, and we will try to think of it like whatever services we would need. So we will open our code editor. So right now there is, you can check we have no images in our system locally, and so we will open our VS Code, and this is a file which we learned in the previous session, and we have created a Docker Compose file, and with these two services, Nginx and Apache. So but there are lots of other functionalities, other syntax, so which we can use while creating our services, and we can instruct Docker to enable the services in whatever way which as per our configuration. So first thing, as you might understand, that first thing is the version. So there are lots of versions available for Docker Compose, and each one is incremental, and you can check it here from here. So go to our Docker Compose file version. So this is it. So like version 2, 2.1, 2, 3, 3.4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So we can use the proper version, whatever we require. So let's go with the version 3.8, and since we are going to use this Docker Compose file in Dockerizing our full-fledged application, so think of it in that way. And what in a real-time application, we may need a web application definitely, and we might need a MySQL database, and we also need Nginx, right? So and in order to containerize that, Dockerize that, so let us go that way. So whatever we need, so like we will need a Django application. So by the way, Django is a framework for Python. So there are a few others as well, Python, Flask, and Fast API as well. So don't bother about Django and what it is. Just try to understand the concept. So we will create 3 folders actually for our services which we are going to use. So Django, Nginx, and we also need a DB database, right? So, and by the way, like Docker Compose file is also capable, so that we can provide a specific Docker file as well, and we can instruct Docker Compose to build our image, our container, as per the configuration of the Docker file. So that is why we have created these 3 folders which we will need: Nginx, Django, and database. And Django and Docker Compose file is at the root level, right? So first we will need Nginx. So let's do that. So Nginx is already there, and we will need another service for our Django application. So let's name it Django, and we also need a third service for our database. So let's name it DB, and Nginx is fine, like we are going to use Nginx and Alpine version, Alpine image. And with Django we are going to use, actually since it's Python, so we will need a Python image, right? So let's go here. However, we all know about this thing, like how we can find it and where we can find it. So click on it, Python. So this is the official image. So we are going to use Python version 3.10, and we are going to use a Alpine image, right? So that is a lightweight. And for database, so we should go with there are a few choices. We can go with Postgres, we can go with MySQL. So let's go with MySQL, and MySQL is also available as an official Docker image, so that we can find it here. Scroll down a little bit and you will find MySQL, and by the so see there are also supported tags of MySQL image. So actually here there is a problem, like there is no Alpine image, so we have to go with the Debian one. So Debian is officially supported, I mean this MySQL image is only available for Debian, so there is no Alpine one, so we should be using that thing. So I understand that Debian is a larger one, so but don't worry, so it did not be that much in size. So MySQL, and we are going to use version 8.0.32, tag 8.0.32, and it's a Debian one, right? Okay, so we will need all these three services, and we are going to use which we are going to use in our application, right? So there are a few other things which we will understand, and we will create the Docker file specific to each and every services in some time. So but today let us try to now, like in the, if you might recall, in the Docker file we were exposing some port, so that our container could be able to communicate to outside world. And so the same thing here also, there are lots of other options available, so we can also expose our ports with this one. And by the way, this syntax is an array, so here we can provide the ports, so host port and container port. So host port, like we are I mean from outside world we would listen on port, say like port 9000, and from inside we are going to listen on port say 5000, right? So this way, I mean we are telling it that we are exposing, we will take request on port 9000, and in the container we would be listening on port 5000. And we can also provide along with our other specific syntax instructions, we can also, let us try to do that here, and then we can think of it, understand it appropriately. So we will dive into our terminal, and so this is, you can see that we have 3 folders, and let us try to, we will use docker compose up. And by the way, up command automatically, if it finds a image locally, so it will try to run it. And there are 2 commands which you might we will use most frequently, up, and second one is down. So up, it stands for when we have to start our services, so we go for up, and when we have to pull down our services, we will use the docker compose down command. And up is a magical one as well, like if the image is not available, so it will build simultaneously while making our container up simultaneously, right? So we will go with it. So it will take some time. It is actually pulling all the images, and it will build the container as well for us, which we can see it on our Docker on Docker desktop. Let us give it a moment. So here you can see this is running, right? And that thing we can confirm here. Go to images, so we can see like there are 3 images available, it created, the MySQL, Nginx, and Python. And if you go to container, so there are 3 containers which this docker compose up command that created for us. So we are having a db1 and Django_1 and Nginx 1. And by the way, this compose, you are saying it here, this compose is actually our folder name. So whatever our folder name is, directory name, So that is at the root level. So we will try to rename it as per our choice, so that it could be readily we can understand it easily, right? Okay, so let's try to do that, and we will dive in more into our Docker Compose file and we'll try to reconfigure it. So for example, for our Django container, we want to name it something like ports. We will name it container name, and we will name it as a let's say my Django container. So by the way, this is a string, so it might raise an error, and let's try to see what this thing does for us. So let's try to rebuild it, and here if we go to Docker desktop, so it is our container name is my Django cont, and so it is much more readable, and we can identify well. Similarly, like we can also do, like for example, you might remember that with the Docker file we can trigger a command which should be triggered executable command. So we can also do the same thing here as well. So it can take a string, or we can provide as an array as well. So let's try to go with a string. So here we can go with echo, and I am running from Django container. Let's save it and try to rebuild it. Let's close it, and here you can see, like when this container got started, so it gave a graceful message that I am running from Django container, right? And so let us try to, by the way, let's comment it out for now. We will do it more, and let's try to complete other things which we might need for other services. So for Nginx, we want this container to be identified with Nginx cont container, and let's copy that out, and we want our MySQL container to be identified as DB container, right? And with Nginx also, like we also need to expose our port, so that our Nginx web server inside the container, so that could be able to communicate to the rest of the world. So we will expose some ports over there, and with the ports we want to let's say expose our port 9000 on our host machine to port 80 inside the container, right? So this way, when every request from like localhost port 9000, if you type in the browser, we will see that in action, no worries. So that would be going through the our container, right? And so it looks to be fine for me. So let's save it out, and let's try to rebuild it. And by the way, like there is one more thing which you will understand just right away, that each and every time, like if you simply run Docker Compose up, so our terminal got engaged. So there is a way to, so that we can detach the this terminal, so that we can do our other stuffs as well. So for now, hit Control C to exit it out, and the command which we have to use it, we have to provide a hyphen D. So hyphen D, actually it makes our container to run in a detached mode, so that our terminal could be available for use by us, right? So let's try to do it. So starting, and okay, port 9000 might be busy. Okay. Oh yes, so actually one container we already configured one port 9000 on the host machine, for our Django application, so that is why it is not. So let's change it to something like 9001 and try to rebuild it. Let's see. So this time, yes, our all the 3 containers have got started, and this we can check in Docker desktop. So if we go here, so you can see like all of the container are named correctly as per our provided configuration, and our Nginx is running over there. So don't bother about it, this why it got exited. So there are some other configuration that needs to be we need to provide that. So that is why it is throwing that thing. But the best part is if we go to our local host and put 9000 local host and put 9000. So we are seeing this graceful message, the default HTML for Nginx, and by the way, that is running from our that is being served from our container, Nginx container. So that's it. So to me, we have covered many things. We are step by step we are building our application. So we will do that in the coming sessions. Like we will make a full-fledged Django application, and in the next few sessions we will try to write minimum thing over here, and rather we will try to have a specific Docker file, so that our application deployment could be more robust and more manageable, right? So till then, so take care, and if you have any question, any doubts, so please do let me know, and I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. So till then, take care. Bye bye.